is Jennifer, and I'm addicted to true crime. My name is Jennifer, and I'm addicted to true crime.
I'm scared to death. I'm frightened, and I don't know what to do. I'm confused, and I want to go home.
True crime melted my brain, and now I have a YouTube channel. Tonight's case is not for everyone. The things that this woman, Kimberlee Singler, is accused of doing to her own children are unimaginable. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to it. I was glitching a little bit as we were getting started. I hope that you were not experiencing what I was experiencing. Anyway, I do want to go ahead and get right to it this evening. Last week we were here for 2.5 hours. That was way too much. I don't want to do that again. So what I'm going over tonight is a document that I have created that is just a basic timeline of events. So this document is subject to change, and I will have it available on the website at crimecurious.com /Kimberlee-Singler, which is on the screen right now. We're not talking about the affidavit, but this document after this live stream will also be available on the website at that same link. And I will continue to update this document. Right now at the top of the page, it says this document was last updated January 10th, 2026, which was earlier today, right before my live streams. And welcome to it. It also has my contact information. And so the first thing that it does is it cites my sources with links to those documents and websites. So everything that I used to create this first round, I mean, this is basically a draft of the timeline. So I used the affidavit of probable cause, which was a 14-page document that was released a couple weeks ago. I also used the full press conference, which was a video that I put out on the channel. And then I also used Kimberlee Singler's public Facebook page, which it's odd to me that she still has a Facebook page, and I'm not going to bring it up on the screen because there are only two or three public posts that you can see on Kimberlee Singler's Facebook page. And one of them is her thanking everyone for birthday wishes. And in the comments, there are several aunts and other family members who, are making comments about how good she looks in the photo. And, it's that photo that we've all seen of Kimberlee Singler while she was wanted for murder. It was basically the only thing that we had was that Facebook photo until we finally received the mugshots, which I'm not going to bother putting on the screen right now. Anyway, it's interesting to check out, but it is a rabbit hole, so, beware. There's also a Facebook group that I wanted to tell you about. I just joined it like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, something like that. But I think it's called CO v. Kimberlee Singler. So Colorado v. Kimberlee Singler. And it doesn't appear to be a bunch of drama or, there are a lot of really good links. And one of the things that I don't have a solid understanding of in this case, of which there are many, but one of the things is, how the extradition process worked. And, while she was fighting extradition, I'm curious as to whether or not any evidence was presented, and how that works with the Fourth Judicial District, whose case it is, in an international court. I just, I don't really understand that yet, but I'm going to continue to look into it, and we've got plenty of time. Well, Kilo's decided that he wants to co-host today. He's been sounding the alarm quite a bit lately. In Colorado Springs, we recently got about a foot of snow. And right now, after a day of sunshine, it's starting to fall off in chunks from my roof. At which point, Kilo thinks that somebody's trying to get inside. So I have to apologize. I'll go ahead and close the door to see if that helps. Nope. Sorry, mister. It's just the snow. Stop it. Okay. All right, back to it. Yeah, I don't have a guard dog. I have an alarm dog. If somebody breaks through the front door, if they have a cookie in their hand, they're good. I mean, he's just going to make a bunch of noise when they're trying to get in. And then he'll go hide under the bed with his cookie. Anyway, back to it. Okay, so it's a basic timeline of events. This is Kimberlee. Another thing, Kimberlee Singler had court this week. That was on January 7th. And it was supposed to be at 1:30, and I logged into the WebEx at about 1:15, and it didn't appear like anything was going on. And so I checked the docket on the state's website, and I saw that nothing was listed for January 7th at 1:30, but there was a new court date listed for May 11th of 2026, which is intended to be her preliminary hearing or proof evident presumption great, at which point we'll be able to see a little bit more evidence from the prosecution. And even if it's the same evidence that was in the probable cause document, we will be able to see it just a little bit more clearly. That doesn't mean that the preliminary is going to happen on May 11th. I kind of felt the same way about the January 7th court date. Mike Allen already hinted during the press conference that he was most likely going to request a continuance, but they have to set it within 30 days so as to not violate due process. Anyway, maybe we'll have a preliminary on May 11th and maybe we won't. But Kimberlee Singler does not have to answer these charges until after that preliminary hearing does finally take place. And at that point, I mean, in my lay opinion, based on training and experience, she will most likely plead not guilty by reason of insanity, because how could she not? There is a lot of evidence stacked up against her, and I know that at one point she tried the third man or alternate suspect defense. She definitely wanted it to look like her ex-husband had committed the crimes, and if not him, on his own, then he hired someone, probably a coworker, to do it for him. And I think that, it hasn't officially been stated that those two men have been cleared, but I'm pretty sure those two men have been cleared. And so, I can't imagine a third man defense in the courtroom. There's all this DNA evidence. There's the way everything really lines up, especially when you look at it the way that we're going to look at it tonight in this sort of, chronology. Just the information we have. It's very damning and it's certainly compelling. And I just can't imagine any other defense for her other than an affirmative defense that says, yeah, I did it, but I was crazy. And in the post-trial study group right now, which is Saturday nights at 6 p.m. Mountain, we're studying Letitia Stauch's insanity defense and trying to see what did we learn from Letitia Stauch's insanity defense, and what can we take forward into cases like this with Kimberlee Singler, but also Nick Reiner. I can't help but follow the Nick Reiner case very closely. I probably won't be making any videos on it because, I've narrowed my YouTube channel down to Colorado cases, but I'm definitely following it closely, as I'm sure, many people will. Anyway, we're already 10 minutes in and still only on the first page, and I haven't even checked the comments yet. Maybe I should add them to the screen. I don't know. It might take away from the documents. Welcome in, anybody who's here. I appreciate you all. I also appreciate anybody who comments on replay. Scout was saying hi to Kilo when Kilo was sounding the alarm. We need to write something up legally that shows that you are, in fact, Kilo's godmother. When you have a free moment, we should definitely put it together. Okay, so back to the document. So 2 counts of first-degree homicide after deliberation and with intent, 2 counts of first-degree homicide, child under 12, 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted child under 12, and also 1 count of first-degree assault, which I'm assuming is, what she's accused of doing to her 11-year-old daughter, but we'll get that. We'll get there. And speaking of we'll get there, Tinkerbell Wannabe says, May, that's so far away. And it is. And it might even be continued. I'm not going to be going live on this case every Saturday night at 8 p.m. If I'm live on Saturday night at 8 p.m., it's probably either going to be about Kimberlee Singler or Barry Morphew. And both of those could be drawn out for 2 years. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll play it by ear. And I am, no matter how passionate I get about any of these cases, I'm trying to not take myself so damn seriously these days. So, for tonight, we've got a basic timeline with only the information that we have. At the bottom of the first page, it talks again about the surviving victim and how nobody needs another social media circus geek in the court of public opinion ruining it for us all. Speaking of Barry Morphew, as of right now, we are allowed to observe remotely as members of the public these pretrial hearings in the case against Kimberlee Singler, because nobody screwed it up yet. In Barry Morphew's case, however, unfortunately, the same cannot be said. But we'll get into that on a Barry Morphew night. Anyway, so it's just, the bottom of the first page is just a reminder to try and, respect people's privacy and govern ourselves accordingly. Okay, and let's see, this is a little bit difficult for me to read. Let me change the banner too. Since I'm over here on the banners, if you want to reach out to me directly, the email address is coloradocasefiles@gmail.com, and my website is crimecurious.com. Standard disclaimer that true crime has in fact melted my brain. Okay, Colorado v. Kimberlee Singler. And let's see, we are on page 2. So it starts back in either 2016 or 2017. And Kimberlee's husband at the time tells her about a horrible nightmare that he experienced wherein he had harmed his family. So 2016 or 2017, I just made a note here that the children were born in 2012, which was the 11-year-old female, 2014, which is the 9-year-old female, and 2016, which is the 7-year-old male. So if this horrible nightmare that her ex-husband had was in 2016 or 2017, it would have been just after the birth of their youngest child, which is the 7-year-old victim in this case. And in my opinion, the husband was mortified. It sounds like it was an awful dream. And it seems to me that he was looking for support from his wife because it was disturbing as hell. And she was his partner, and it freaked him out. And apparently she's been using it against him ever since. I don't know that for sure. That's just the narrative that was told in the affidavit of probable cause, that he had this horrible dream years ago when they were married, and she's been using it against him ever since. And that appears to be true, right? So if we skip forward at least 5 years, we get to October of 2022. And in October of 2022, Kimberlee loads the children into a vehicle. They drive for several hours, many hours, and they finally land at a hotel where they stay for about 30 days. And this may or may not be the hotel. This may or may not be the time that Kimberlee Singler's mother, the children's grandmother, talks about with police, saying that last time she disappeared, we found her in Salt Lake City, Utah. I don't know for sure that that's the same as this because, they were kind of spread out in the affidavit. I can make that assumption, but I just want it to be known that it's just an assumption. So anyway, Kimberlee tells her children while they're staying at this hotel or motel that the reason they're at a hotel hiding from the world is because they are being chased by literal demons and hiding from people who are stalking them and using witchcraft to harm them. And I think it's important to note that at the time that Kimberlee Singler is at a hotel or motel, hiding from the world, possibly in Salt Lake City, with her children, their current ages at the time, were 10, 8, and 6. So you've got a mother who's in her 30s. You've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and she's actively telling them that the reason they're doing what they're doing for this month that they're doing it is because they're being chased by actual demons. Demons are real. We're being chased by them, and people are stalking us, and they're using witchcraft to harm us. And the thought of that, when I try to imagine being either a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, or a 6-year-old, it's too much, and my brain just kind of shuts down. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next line item, which is September of 2023. So that hotel business was October of 2022, and the incident happens in December of 2023, so 14 months later. Anyway, we're working up to that. So we have summer of 2023. And in the summer of 2023, the couple, being Kimberlee Singler and her ex-husband, their first cuddle battle. Wouldn't that be something? Cuddle battle. Good Lord. Custody battle ensues, and it's ugly. So I might reword that, cuddle battle. Anyway, ugly custody battle in the summer of 2023, which, I don't know the exact details of that agreement, and I don't know that we need to. I think it's enough that we know they had a nasty custody battle. So August 2nd of 2023. So now we are about 4 months away from the homicides and the assault, according to the prosecution. Anyway, August 2nd, 2023, Kimberlee Singler makes a public Facebook post thanking friends and family for birthday wishes. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this. I don't think you guys will be able to see it unless I share my screen. I'm not going to bother doing that. But we already talked about Kimberlee Singler's Facebook page, and we also talked about the private Facebook group that I joined this week. Let's Okay, let me just get back to it here. Anyway, I would like to point out that this post, the birthday post, Kimberlee Singler made this post on August 2nd of 2020, which means that in yet another parallel in this damn case between Kimberlee Singler and the one against Letitia Stalk, in yet another parallel, Kimberlee Singler's birthday is apparently August 2nd, and Letitia Stalk's birthday is August 4th. And I'm just like, okay, another thing. Anyway, it's not that important. Let me just go back to the document on my own screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so September 8th, 2023. Kimberlee Singler reports to Colorado Springs police that her ex-husband had threatened her with a knife during a recent custody exchange. Police contact Singler's ex-husband, and they get an entirely different story from him, making it obvious that Kimberlee Singler was trying to set him up. So September 8th, 2023, this is the incident that we talked about last week. Or did we? No, I don't think we talked about it last week. When we heard about it was when I read the affidavit of probable cause. And in the affidavit of probable cause, Kimberlee Singler's ex-husband, the children's father, talks about a time when he went to go pick up the kids, and it was odd because Kimberlee usually makes herself scarce during the pickups, but this time, she came out on the front porch it came outside of the apartment and was, anyway, she handed him something, and inside, wrapped in a piece of cloth, along with some artwork from the children, was a knife. It was like a paring knife, and so he dropped it. He got out of there. She called the police. She called the police and said that he pulled a knife on her. Basically, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but anyway, so that was in September of 2023. So after this custody battle from the summer, she's now saying that during a custody exchange, he pulled a knife on her. And she's documenting everything and backing it up with police reports at that point. So then we jump to November 2023, which is just 1 month before the incident. And in November of 2023, Kimberlee Singler's ex-husband is awarded additional parenting time, and the custody agreement is altered in his favor. And this kicks off, this event would be kicking off yet another custody battle because orders had already been made in the first ones, but Kimberlee Singler didn't agree with what the court ordered as far as custody and visitation. And so the next entry in my little timeline here is that court notes stated that the children were ordered to be in the care and custody of their father from December 16th, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. And once again, Kimberlee didn't like it. Kimberlee didn't like him picking up the kids for visits. That's why the knife incident and then calling the police on him, so now he's got to go back to court because even though he was awarded certain custody, she wasn't holding up her end of the ordered agreement. So then we jump to specifically November 17th of 2023, and a call for service to Colorado Springs Dispatch is made by Kimberlee Singler regarding threats that had been made by her ex-husband all the way back in 2022 in a different county. And she wants the police to know that he admitted that he had threatened to, or that he had, she wants the police in El Paso County, she wants them to know that her ex-husband threatened to kill the children and that it is proven in court documents. and it happened in 2022. So, here it's November 17th. I'm not sure, you know, what was going on, if he was allowed to see the kids or not, um, during this time. Anyway, she called the police in November of 2023 to say that her husband threatened to kill the children in 2022, which, that's definitely a piece of body cam footage that I would like to explore in the future when it's appropriate. Because, her version of things and what gets to the court, and using the police, as if there is some immediate threat, but she wants to get it on the record, in my opinion, which is worth exactly what you paid for it, and this video is free. In my opinion, she's creating false narratives that appear like proof to the court because she has things like police reports to back it up. And in my opinion, that proves that she knew what she was doing, because she had been calculating her moves for months, and it was all about the custody battle. So the next entry says, the 11-year-old female is sick and stays home from school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday prior to the incident. I just wanted to make a note of that. So then we have Saturday, December 16th. Now the incident happens on Monday, December 18th, so we're 2 days away at this point. Kimberlee Singler's ex-husband, and December 16th is when he's supposed to have the kids. Okay, so kids have been sick, everybody's taking medicine, and the next visit is coming up, and Kimberlee is not going for it, and she wants out of it. So Kimberlee Singler's ex-husband sends a third party to facilitate the agreed upon custody exchange, and Kimberlee refuses to give the children over to the third party. Kimberlee lies to her ex-husband's attorney. She claims that she is out of town with the kids and that she won't be back until Wednesday, which would be December 20th. And as you know, two of the three children didn't make it to Wednesday, December the 20th. Also, she wasn't in town. She was lying. But any excuse to not give him the kids. And she says it's because he's dangerous, but can't prove anything. And she says that she can't prove anything because he's so manipulative. And I don't know what kind of alternate universe you have to be in to believe any of that to be true. And I don't truly know about Kimberlee Singler's mental health or what she's been diagnosed with. According to her mother, nothing. But who knows what'll happen between now and trial. She could be diagnosed with all sorts of shit, and we could pay for it. We being the people of the state of Colorado. Anyway, Sunday, December 17th, 2023. Kimberlee Singler has an impromptu Christmas party for the children, and the grandmother goes to a friend's house to spend the night. She's planning to return the following day. So Saturday, December 16th happens. Kimberlee refuses the custody exchange, and the ex-husband goes directly to the court, but it's a Saturday. What are you going to do? But her ex-husband goes directly to the court, and his attorney begins trying to work out a new pickup custody exchange. And she's angry because he sent a third party. Woman, the last custody exchange that we know of, you planted a knife and accused him of threatening you with it. Yeah, he sent a third party. And now that he sent a third party, what did she have planned for this pickup? What was she planning for this one? And I believe it was at a police station, but still, what isn't she capable of? Obviously. Okay, so Sunday, December 17th. So the day before the two youngest children are killed, Kimberlee Singler has an impromptu Christmas party for the kids. Did she know that she was going to kill him at this point? The day before, she avoided yet another custody exchange. She throws them a Christmas party, and she's telling them that the reason they're opening gifts is because, their dad might have to come get them. And who knows what else she's saying. I mean, we also saw the things that Letitia used to put into Gannon's head, pretending to be pregnant, talking to him about her marriage to his father. You know, twisted, manipulative shit by people who are responsible for the care and custody of these children. It's scary. It's scary. Anyway, so she has this little Christmas party, and detectives, they see evidence of the Christmas party after it becomes a crime scene. Oh, Kilo's getting ready to sound an alarm again. I assume it's more snow falling from the roof. Anyway, so also on Sunday, December 17th, the children's father clocks into work at 11:28 p.m. Mountain, and he begins a GPS-tracked route where he drives a truck in Thornton, Colorado, which, for anybody who's not familiar with the geography, is approximately 2 hours away. Now, does that give him an alibi? Well, not if he hired it done, not if he had somebody else do it. But anyway, like I said earlier, I'm assuming that he's been cleared, as well as his coworker. So in bold and underlined, I have Monday, December 18th, 2023, because that is the date that the prosecution alleges Kimberlee Singler did what they allege she did. I do want to just check the comments really quick. And Jilly Bean says, I can't imagine being so evil that these things would occur to me to do. Right. And we were just talking about the concept of evil in the study group because that particular forensic psychologist didn't believe in the concept of evil. She doesn't think evil actually exists because she's a scientist, and that's a religious idea. And religion has no place in science. So, I don't know. I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but I'm going to tell you she's evil, in my opinion, which again is worth what you paid for it. So Jilly says, did she want him to be there to hurt him and say self-defense? Who knows? Who knows? I don't even know if she actually showed up in person for the custody exchange on December 16th, or if she just reached out to his attorney, or maybe the attorney told her it was going to be a third party and she was like, I'm not doing it if it's a third party. Like maybe they tried to confirm before the actual appointment for exchange. I don't know. And it's, this affidavit of probable cause had more holes in it than most as far as redactions go. And so that's as much as I can say. Let's see. So back to the timeline, we go to Monday, December 18th. Oh, and I haven't been changing it on the screen. So we're on the third page of my document, which again, I'm going to make available on the website. And I will continue to make new versions of it available as I continue to update the document. So we're on page 3, Monday, December 18th, 2023. And on that date, an emergency order in response to an emergency motion is filed with the court regarding the custody agreement. And so even though, she screwed him over on Saturday and then, she's having a Christmas party with the kids who she's not even supposed to have for Christmas the next day on Sunday, by Monday, his attorney already had a signed order in front of the judge. And I just put a direct quote out of that document, and it reads, a status conference will be held on the motion for law enforcement assistance to enforce parenting time on Wednesday, December 20th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. All parties must appear in person, and the petitioner shall bring the minor children to court. The court strongly prefers that the exchange happen prior to court to avoid exposing the children to court proceedings. If Kimberlee Singler has turned the minor children over to her ex-husband prior to the court appearance, then the parties may appear virtually. Respondent may designate third parties to conduct the exchange on his behalf. Excuse me. So that lines it out. So on the 18th, the court files an order saying that Kimberlee and the kids will be in court physically on Wednesday, December 20th, without fail. And unless she hands the kids over sooner, at which point she can appear virtually using WebEx. And the court really wanted her to do that, like hand them over now. And she's told this on the 18th. And in fact, if we go to the next page, there we go. The next page states that the court actually leaves a voicemail for Kimberlee Singler with the details. Now, is that like certified public mail or certified mail? No, but the court is not messing around, and those kids are supposed to, I mean, they've been fighting about this since the summer, and those kids are supposed to be with their father this Christmas, and he was fighting his ass off for it, according to these documents. So it doesn't say exactly what time that voicemail was left, but it sounds like that it was left pretty early in the day. So the court leaves her a voicemail, and she's made aware that, the 20th is the day. So she feels this pressure, I assume. I also noted here that on that day, the father's coworker who, thanks to Kimberlee, was also an alternate suspect. He clocks out of work at 9:34 a.m. Then the 7-year-old male and 9-year-old female are killed between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., according to the prosecution's narrative in the affidavit of probable cause. And I don't know if they only based that on information they got from Kimberlee and the 11-year-old daughter. It didn't state specifically that was also provable by autopsy, but once again, there was a ton of information redacted from that document. The father, alternate suspect, clocks out of work at 1:26 p.m. The grandmother tries to reach Kimberlee several times throughout the day. She eventually sends a text message to let Kimberlee know that she will be spending another night at her friend's house, but she never gets any response from Kimberlee. So it's hard to say whether or not Kimberlee Singler received those messages, or if she just went into overdrive when she got the voicemail from the court and hid her phone from herself and her daughter or anyone else who could call for help. So anyway, that's really all that I have right now on the day of December 18th. Because, I mean, that's really all we know for sure about what happened. We have, last week we went over several people's accounts, namely Kimberlee's version of what happened, the grandmother's version of what happened, and the 11-year-old female's version of what happened. 2 of those witnesses lied their faces off. So, we have to be careful about how we glean the information from the affidavit of probable cause. Anyway, so then my document as it stands today, this timeline, goes then to Tuesday, December 19th of 2023. And because, and I list it as Tuesday, December 19th, because it's after midnight on the 18th when Kimberlee Singler finally has to call 911 herself. And remember, she was just going to be waiting for her mother to show up. She's supposed to be home from her friend's house, and then she could call 911 because Kimberlee couldn't find her phone. So Kimberlee Singler calls 911 at 12:29 a.m. and reports a burglary in progress to the Colorado Springs police. According to Singler, her 7-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter were killed. Singler also reported that she and her 11-year-old daughter were injured in the attack. So first responders show up, and Kimberlee and her daughter both lie their faces off to police. Later in the day, Tuesday, December 19th, 2023, detectives respond to the ex-husband's residence in Greeley. And you guys might, Greeley is in Weld County, which is where Chris Watts was in jail before they shipped him off to Wisconsin. Anyway, detectives respond to the ex-husband's residence in Greeley, Colorado at 9:04 a.m. and inform him of the deaths of the 7-year-old male and 9-year-old female. He cooperates with police and they confirm his alibi. So they're already in Greeley by 9 a.m. and they were just alerted that there was a burglary in progress, 8 hours before. So later in the evening on December 19th, on Tuesday, after being released from the hospital, Kimberlee has another interview with Detective Gardner, while the grandmother is interviewed by Detective Gasper. Kimberlee once again lies to the police. Kimberlee and the grandmother are then placed together and alone in an interview room with detectives who are watching the pair's interaction remotely. And once again, that is a future FOIA request for sure. I definitely want to see that all of the police interviews. And I doubt that's going to include the 11-year-old female's police interview. I've seen it done in other cases in other states on other YouTube channels. I just don't think, and I don't know that I would be comfortable putting it out. I'm really, as a content creator, pretty nervous about the 11-year-old female's involvement or potential involvement, or the truth is the truth, and I'm not going to shy away from the truth. We can handle it, but I just, I want to be careful, and we don't know what we don't know yet, and I'll make those decisions in the future. Okay. Let's see. So now we are at Wednesday, December 20th. So the incident happened on Monday. There were interviews on Tuesday. I think I might have left out. Yeah, so I should have added there for sure. I should have added there that when the 11-year-old female was released from the hospital, she too had an interview. Well, she had an interview at the hospital, and yeah, I need to add that to the timeline, that in the hospital, not after she was released, but in the hospital, the 11-year-old female gave an interview. I left that out, so we'll add it. Like I said, it's a working document, and I haven't made it available on my website yet, so I'll make that change before I do make it available. Okay, so Wednesday, December 20th, 2023, a new motion for continuance is filed by Kimberlee Singler in the custody matter. And this one, you guys, absolutely blew my mind. And I'm definitely going to share my screen, and we're going to go over that document that she filed 2 days after allegedly murdering her 2 youngest children. And Tinkerbell says, I get Diane Downs vibes from her, even though, as far as we know, there isn't a man involved. She just makes me sick. Yeah. Yep. I agree. And I don't know the Diane Downs case as well as I think I would like to before truly covering this case. But I did find a YouTube channel that is called Diane Downs TV. And it seems to be straight to the research, my kind of channel. So I'm definitely going to check it out at some point. And Jilly Bean says, at 11 years old, she was not stupid, I'm sure. She was not stupid, I'm sure, and was probably scared shitless of her mom and her crazy demons following us stories, etc. Yeah, yeah, and we have to remember all of that. None of us will ever know what it was like to be that little girl at 11 years old. What her mother exposed her to, or how she was doing in school, or what. I mean, we don't know these people. And, she has not been, as far as I know, accused of any sort of crime. Was she treated as a suspect at one point? Yes, of course. So was Harley Hunt in the case against Letitia Stalk. Letitia Stalk's 17-year-old daughter was absolutely a suspect, who had a very strong bond with her mother. And in this case, I don't know about the bond between her and her mother, but I do know that after her mother skipped town, she was in London by Christmas, and the 11-year-old girl was sent to first DHS custody and then a foster home. She came clean very quickly. By Christmas Day, what I believe to be her foster parent was calling detectives. Anyway, I'm jumping around on the timeline. Let me try to keep myself in check here. We are doing a much better, I'm doing a much better job this week of sticking to the plan and not branching off too many times in rabbit holes. And looks like Becky's in the house. Becky says, hey, I was watching last night's and see you're live, so I switched to here. And welcome to it, Becky. It's good to see you. So I'm trying to stick to the timeline. I mean, I went to the trouble of creating the document. I could at least stick to it, right? With the best of intentions. But we're doing a much better job time-wise. Like I said, I never want to go 2.5 hours with you guys. I mean, there's plenty of time and plenty of information. So anyway, getting back to it. Insert written statement here. That's what it says on the timeline. So let me remove this, and I'm going to share my screen. And what I want to share is the custody battle motion to continue due to incident, which is the name of the document. And let me add it to the stage here. Oh, that is way too small. How about that? We might have to kick the jury out of the room. We know they're there. Let's kick the jury out. By the way, it's not a real jury. They're an imaginary jury. But they do have names. Their names are Marky, Ricky, Danny, Terry, Mikey, Davey, Timmy, Tommy, Joey, Robbie, Johnny, and Brian. And if you are a nerd like me, you will know that those are the names of Will Hunting's imaginary brothers in Good Will Hunting. I thought it was cute. I'm a fucking weirdo sometimes. Anyway, back to this document. Let's see if I can make it a little bigger as well. See how that looks. Okay, I think that's as good as it gets. Okay, so this woman has the woman filing this document, and remember, she is pro se because she can't afford an attorney, according to her grandmother. So she's doing this pro se, writing this statement, filing it with the court 2 days after allegedly murdering her 2 youngest children. So petitioner's motion to compel the court to continue status conference scheduled for today, December 20th, and petitioner status report regarding incident that occurred on December 18th. So she's got to file this with the court, as if it couldn't have, anyway. Nope. I'm going to stick to the document. I'm going to do us all a favor and stick to the document. Let me take a drink. Okay. Comes now petitioner Kimberlee Wentz, now known as Kimberlee Singler, and does hereby submit petitioner's motion to compel the court to continue the status conference scheduled for today, December 20th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. and petitioner's status report regarding incident that occurred on December 18th, 2023. Number 1, on December 18th, 2023, at about 11 a.m., someone broke into my residence and attacked the children and myself. The 7-year-old male and 9-year-old female were murdered, and the 11-year-old female and I were left to die, but we survived. I was just released from the hospital yesterday, and the 11-year-old female is still in the hospital. Given the circumstances, the 11-year-old female is in temporary custody of El Paso County Department of Human Services. Number 2, I had no ability to call 911 until approximately midnight on December 19th, 2023, so obviously I had no idea that Respondents Council had called me or sent me any emails. I only just learned of this status conference, which is scheduled for today, December 20th, late last night. Likely story, lady. Okay, sorry. Number 3, my residence is currently locked down during the investigation, so I have no access to any of my personal belongings. I am on a public computer in a public place at the public library. I have no access to a private computer right now, which would allow me to attend the status conference virtually. I have no ability to attend in person either, as I do not have access to my driver's license and therefore cannot drive myself anywhere. Furthermore, I am unable to attend in person, virtually, or otherwise because I have lacerations on my neck and wrists, and although I have been released from the hospital, I am weak, in a great deal of pain, and I will require further medical treatment / checkups, etc., for at least the next 10 days. Number 4, I do not have access to my phone or my laptop, as all electronics inside the residence will be kept for an undisclosed amount of time by the Colorado Springs Police Department as evidence during the investigation. I have tried logging into my email from a public computer, but it requires that I receive a security code to my cell phone, which I have no access to right now. So I am trying to figure out a way to gain access to my emails. And finally, thank God, number 5, I would like to ask for time to heal, to find out if the 11-year-old female's condition is stable, to grieve the loss of the 7-year-old male and 9-year-old female, and to gain my bearings after this incident. I would like to request for the court to continue this status conference and reschedule it for a future date, no sooner than January 1st, 2024. And then, sincerely, liar, liar, pants on fire, Esquire. I like that. Liar, liar, pants on fire, Esquire. God, can you guys imagine if Kimberlee Singler decides to represent herself at any point in this process? I mean, it's already eerie, uncomfortable parallels. I really hope she does not do that. I really hope she doesn't do it. But this document, written by her, filed by her, is incredibly well written and lucid for someone. I think that this goes, I think, if we end up with, let me finish, or let me stop sharing my screen. I feel like if we end up with a not guilty by reason of insanity plea, I feel like that kind of, if I'm on the jury, well, I don't know. And maybe that's a question for an attorney. In fact, let me make a note and ask an attorney, because I can. Okay, so can that document be submitted as evidence that she is or was of sane mind, or at least enough to calculate? If all of this is bullshit, if the knife pulling incident is bullshit, if, her using the dream that he had 5 years before the custody battle is bullshit and twisted in her favor to make him look bad. I mean, is he, is her ex-husband a victim of this woman, right? can this not this document, not my timeline. I don't want my timeline submitted in court, but can that document we just viewed that she filed with the court on the 20th, and I don't personally believe, we already know she's a liar. No way did she not find out until the 20th that she was supposed to be in court on the 20th. She knew on the 18th. And in my estimation, that's why she did what she did. But, innocent until proven guilty, yada, yada, etc., etc. Can that document be presented in court? Forgive me while I make my notes. I mean, remember, I'm not reporting on this case. I'm not breaking news. It's a case study. So sometimes I stop to take notes. Okay. Jump back over to chat really quick. Tinkerbell says, Jen, I'm so happy you're back with podcasting. I'm glad to be back. Lots of things in my life have changed, and let's do it. I'm not currently working a day job, which I suppose now would be as good. Well, no, we're going to wait until I'm done. I was going to say that now would be as good a time of any to talk about my true crime melted my brain merch, but I don't think, I think that might be in poor taste. So we'll save it until the end when we're not talking about what happened in December of 2023. But it's good to see you, and I'm glad I'm back. Hopefully, the audience will continue to grow. Unfortunately, in the last month, I've lost like 23 subscribers. So, there's that. But we're changing, metamorphosis over here. And I'm enjoying it as well. And Jilly Bean wants to know if they have listed a lawyer for her. And not that I am aware of. But that too isn't. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, they haven't listed a lawyer on the case necessarily, but the public defender's office has been assigned to her case, and they were there during her first appearance. I missed the second appearance on January 7th, this last week, if there even was that second appearance. As far as I know, it's still the Colorado State Public Defender's Office. And what was her name? Her name is also Kimberlee, Kim Chalmers. And she is very high up in the Colorado State Public Defender's Office, and she works a lot in the 4th Judicial District. She was one of Letitia Staup's original attorneys. So as of right now, Kimberlee Singler's attorney is the Public Defender's Office, or Kim Chalmers and her team. And Becky P says she did this before she hopped on an airplane to flee the county. Yeah, to flee the country too. County, country, city, all of it. Reality. She tried to flee reality. She didn't quite make it. She was arrested in London on December 30th of 2023. So yes, Becky, she did. She filed this document on the 20th, and she was last seen by her mother on the 23rd, which reminds me to get back to the timeline before Jennifer pulls a Jennifer and we've all gone astray. Okay, so Wednesday, December 20th, 2023, the same day that she filed this document, or that document, I'm sorry, the 7-year-old male and 9-year-old female undergo autopsies, and the 11-year-old female undergoes a forensic interview. The 11-year-old female once again lies to the police. Kimberlee undergoes yet another interview with Detective Gardner. She also continues to lie to the police. The father undergoes a second police interview. This one takes place at the Police Operations Center. So I assume that the father, went to the Police Operations Center in Colorado Springs willingly. It doesn't, I don't think he was ever arrested. I don't know if they gave him a ride. We don't really need all of those details, but the first one was at his house on Tuesday, and the next day he's in person at the Operations Center So on the day that Kimberlee's filing her custody paperwork, as an excuse for why she wasn't in court, and I mean, and what, those are the kinds of things that I'm going to pick apart in the future and trying to imagine what she must have been thinking, right? Like, all of these things are happening on that one day, and what is she thinking? At this point, does she know that she's going to flee the country chasing Superman or whatever the hell she did? So, and because, we're working off of limited information here, my timeline as it stands today jumps to Saturday, December 23rd, 2023. And the grandmother and Kimberlee are staying at a hotel because the apartment has been sealed off as a crime scene. So the grandmother last sees Kimberlee around 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, December 23rd. So exactly one Saturday after she was supposed to make the custody exchange. And now 2 of her children are deceased. One of them was hospitalized and then sent to foster care. Her house has been sealed, or her apartment has been sealed off as a crime scene. She filed custody paperwork with the court. I mean, anyway, so I guess in order to cover her tracks, speaking of Letitia Stalk, Kimberlee Singler sends a text message to the grandmother saying that she's going to go see a movie. Because, I mean, isn't that what you guys would do 5 days after your children, you were attacked, and your daughter was attacked, and your other daughter and son were killed? Like, what movie, Lori Vallow? What movie do you want to go see? I mean, Lori Vallow didn't see a movie, but she tried to get somebody to lie and say that her missing children were at a movie. Sorry, my brain does weird things. Okay, that's why we like bullet points. So, also on Saturday, December 23rd, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation submits an expedited report to case investigators about DNA from the crime scene. This one jumps out to me, being a voter in the state of Colorado. There is a huge scandal that continues today. In fact, there was just a court, I believe that the defendant was just arraigned. Anyway, the defendant in that case is a former forensic scientist for the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Her name is Yvonne, but she goes by Missy. Her last name is Woods. So Missy Woods is a former forensic scientist for the CBI who has been accused of fudging results in criminal cases as it relates to like DNA, expert testimony that now has, it's a mess. And no way are we going down that rabbit hole tonight. My point is, Saturday, December 23rd of 2023, the CBI's Forensic Sciences Unit was a shit show. In order to even investigate this case, because the CBI can't investigate itself, at this time, the KBI is investigating the CBI, and new cases. I mean, it was taking forever to get results back on cases, and even cases with exigent circumstances like this one. It was still tough to get it back. So the idea that on a Saturday, 4 days after the children were killed, 3 days after it was reported. Well, no, it was reported on the 19th. And by the 23rd, CBI has a case report about DNA from the crime scene. That is notable. That's amazing. And I don't know who gets the credit for that one, but I do understand how many obstacles must have been in their way. But they were damn serious about getting this back so that they could get her in custody. And unfortunately, they just weren't fast enough. The day that they got DNA, is the last day she was seen in the country. So fast forward to Christmas Eve. Kimberlee's mother contacts the Colorado Springs Police Department in order to file a missing persons report because Kimberlee never returned to the hotel. Her vehicle and belongings were also gone. So, my question is this. I already have been kind of given a bit of the stank eye to the grandmother about the, not necessarily the truth of her statements, but there's definitely a Kimberlee friendly spin to her recounting of events and situations and circumstances. And if they're staying at a hotel together, I don't know. Anyway, look, we are now in January of 2026, and it doesn't matter. She got out of the country. So let's just go to December 25th, 2023. Again, I want to be responsible with the information that I have, and I want to be clear about how much information I don't have. It is my responsibility as somebody who's talking about this shit publicly, professional or not. And I'm getting better through experience and previous mistakes and failures. Okay, so Monday, December 25th, Christmas Day, Sergeant Dabb is contacted by the person who is now responsible for the 11-year-old female, most likely a foster parent, who states, I want to change that to present tense. I'm funny about my timelines. They all have to be in present tense. I love my formatting. Okay. Sergeant Dabb is contacted by the person who is now responsible for the 11-year-old female, most likely a foster parent, who stated that the 11-year-old female had told her the truth about what happened and why she had lied about everything. So, given that information, apparently, that it would appear that was the cherry on the top of the cake. And on the very next day, the day after Christmas, the 4th Judicial District Attorney's Office files an affidavit of probable cause for the arrest of Kimberlee Singler. Unfortunately, it was 3 days after she was probably gone, but they had to investigate. They had been lied to by multiple parties. Things weren't making sense. And I'm sure that everybody's gut was Kimberlee Singler, but you can't just arrest people on your gut. And while I want to sit here and say that's unfortunate in this case, as a citizen of the United States, that bit is important. That you have to have probable cause to arrest on a case of this magnitude. And I think that this case is actually bigger than any of us really think it is right now in real time. I feel like this case is going to get bigger and bigger. And I hope that they, well, they're not going to televise it. Televise is the wrong word. I hope that they stream the court operated WebEx of this trial so that we can see it. I hope that they do it the same way they did with Letitia Stalk, only hopefully they learned the lesson about not live streaming autopsy photos on a public stream. I hope they've learned as many lessons as we have, and I think we can all do better. That's not to say it wasn't done well with Letitia. That was a fascinating study to be able to watch that trial the way that we did. But just like anything else, hopefully they've learned from it. And hopefully we've learned from it as public observers as well. So as part of the live stream, just because I thought it might benefit anybody who is coming into this case at a later date, I want to arrange and organize the information I'm putting out in a way that makes sense. And I want it to be easy to study. And once again, I say it all the time, but if you're a content creator, you are welcome. If you trust the integrity of the information that we're studying here, you're welcome to use anything that we put out. I would appreciate credit. I'm not working a day job right now. I would like this channel to grow and prosper, as well as the website. But, sometimes it doesn't happen. And I'm not going to chase people who are lifting my content. I would just politely ask for a little bit of credit over here. Anyway, so the affidavit is released to the public on December 25th, 2025. Oh, you know what? I was just talking about that as if it was December 23rd, or I'm sorry, December 26th of 2023. It was also written and released on December 26th, 2023. No, I'm sorry. It was, good Lord. Okay, it's getting late. I'm going to be cutting it off soon. The document was submitted to the court on December 26th of 2023. Right up here on the timeline. You can't see my screen, but God, bear with me. So the affidavit was submitted to the court on December 26th of 2023, and it was presented to the public on December 26th, 2025. Good Lord, somebody needs a nap. Anyway, so then on the 27th, I did a public live stream about Kimberlee Singler being back in Colorado and what we can expect. The next day, I did a public video, which was the full press conference, and I enhanced the audio. On New Year's Eve, I did a public video where I just read the affidavit of probable cause with no commentary. And then on January 3rd, last Saturday night, we did a live stream where we went over Kimberlee's, the grandmother's, and the 11-year-old female's point of view. Tonight, and then January 7th, she had a first appearance. That's now been rescheduled, or I'm sorry, we now have the preliminary coming up in May, maybe. Anyway, January 10th, right now, we're in the timeline, and that's what this link, we're linking to the video we're in right now. And then next Saturday at 8 p.m. Mountain, we're going to do another public live stream just like tonight. And that's going to be questions. It's just going to be a collection of questions that we have and who can we ask. I might be able to get some of them answered before that live stream. And if so, I'll be able to play, a little presentation of what, some attorney friends had to say about my questions about this case, or your questions about this case. If you want to submit them to me, let me put the email back on the screen again. Send me questions that you want me to find the answers to, not because I have the answers, but because I will go out there and find a credible source and get those answers if they can be answered prior to trial. And then, of course, the final page of my timeline, which, by the way, is currently a 7-page document. The affidavit is 14 pages. The final note here for me is that on the timeline is the preliminary hearing, which may or may not happen in May. Let me jump back over to the comments. And Becky P said, great piece of evidence. She wasn't insane, shows motive, in my opinion. And I assume that we're going back to that document that she filed 2 days after. I mean, it's just, wow. And Jilly Bean's got a decent question. Between a month in a hotel, which is not cheap, and a flight out of the country, where in the hell is her money coming from? And she was receiving child support and alimony. I haven't heard about her having a job, but we don't know what we don't know at this point. But I do know that she was receiving child support and alimony. I just don't know how much. And I don't know if, like Sarah Boone, she's going to try to continue to get child support and alimony. I would hope not. I mean, I was being facetious there. I mean, that's just not even possible. And Vitamin DD's in the house. Good to see you, DD. DD wants to know why the assault charge and not attempted murder for the 11-year-old. And there are actually 2 attempted murder charges for the 11-year-old. There's an attempted murder in the first degree charge, and there is an attempted murder in the first degree child under 12. The first one is just after deliberation and with intent, and the second charge is child under 12. Then there's a third charge that relates to the 11-year-old female, which is that first degree assault charge. And then there are 2 charges each for each of the children. So we're looking at a total of 7 charges, 2 for the 7-year-old male, 2 for the 9-year-old female, and 3 for the 11-year-old female. So, man, you guys, it sounds like I've been studying this case. What do you think? You know, we'll all know what we're talking about in no time. And in the meantime, forgive me if I stumble or make mistakes. It is what it is, but we're studying a case. Let's see. I just want to check back over my notes, and I'll let you guys go. Oh, okay. So I do have a couple of things. One of them, probably not super appropriate, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I can. So as I'm snooping around on Facebook, trying to see what I can see, one of the comments in Kimberlee's post thanking people for the birthday wishes, a gentleman by the name of Michael Hunt. He said something along the lines of, well, anyway, I added a little bit to it, and I'll just play it for you. Let me get the banner off the screen here. Get back to the assets. Okay, there we go. Once again, I warned you it's inappropriate, but you know, this is what I'm finding on Facebook. Yes, I have a very twisted sense of humor. And then one more thing, and then I'm going to just go ahead. I have a couple of comments, and then we're going to play the outro. Keep it under an hour and a half for sure and always. So the next thing I wanted to present, it's like 3.5 minutes. But if you remember back to last week when we were talking about Kimberlee's version of events, and let me go ahead and take this off of the screen. When we were talking about Kimberlee's version of events, she mentioned that I can't even say it. Good Lord, hold on, let me take a drink. Okay. When the intrude her. Yeah, I mean, that's what it was. It wasn't an intrude he. It was an intrude her. And she was coming from inside the house, in my opinion. Anyway, when the perpetrator grabbed her by the shoulders and spun her around, she nearly had a heart attack. And I remembered her saying that she had some sort of medical condition that caused her to faint and black out. Which, you know, heart attack, she's worried about a heart attack, allegedly, and she has issues with fainting and blacking out. And I'm not a cardiologist, and so I did some snooping around on that just because I was curious. This, you know, we're at the end of the presentation, so you know. So anyway, I called in an expert witness in the court of public opinion. That's what I'm calling him, a New York cardiologist. But I wanted to share this with you guys and talk about it a little bit, and then we're out of here.
Hi guys, my name is Sanjay Gupta. I'm a consultant cardiologist in New York, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about faints and blackouts. So the first thing is that generally there is a distinction between fainting and a blackout, all right? Although they can both be associated with loss of consciousness. Fainting usually is a symptom which is accompanied by some kind of aura. A person will feel something not quite right, and they will often do something to try and avoid falling, but often they're not able to do it quick enough to stop themselves from falling. So common auras are visual disturbance. People can get sort of buzzing in their ears, or just haziness or some kind of visual disturbance. Often they can get a little bit hot and a little bit clammy, and they just generally just feel unwell and their heart starts racing, and then they say, oh look, I'm not quite feeling right, I need to go out, or I need to stand up, or something like that. And if they're not able to do that quick enough, they often faint. Now when they faint, they usually slump. They don't just go boom. They usually slump. Either someone stops them from falling, or they fall on the floor, but they don't really hurt themselves because there's something that is they can do to try and minimize the impact of falling. And when they're on the floor, they often are, so they have an altered level of consciousness. So, they may be mumbling, or they may be making funny movements or something like that. And then slowly they come around and they're helped up and they go on their way. That's a typical faint. A blackout is slightly different. A blackout is where you have no warning whatsoever. So basically, particularly when it comes from the heart. So you're walking along, or you're standing, and then without any warning, you just boom, out like a light switched off, and bang, you end up on the floor. You often injure yourself because there is no warning. You can't do anything to stop yourself from falling, and the person falls on the floor. The loss of consciousness is only very transient, very short-lived. There is there's nothing else, and often the patient is either able to get up again, or they sit on the floor, and they have they don't know what happened. They just there's nothing that they can say, well, without warning, I just ended up on the floor. And they've often cracked their skull, or sustained a cut, or injured themselves. So the one distinction I use between people who fainted and people who've blacked out is the suddenness of their episode, how it started. And for that, it's really important to have a witness. And if you have a witness, someone who's observed this, then it's always useful to ask them exactly what happened. Did I just go bang, or was I not quite feeling right?
Okay, I thought the fainting goat at the end was cute, but as I have stated before, and I will continue to state, true crime has melted my brain. But really, I mean, did you know that there was a difference between fainting and blacking out? Because I don't think there really is. I mean, when an expert witness is presented at trial, you, as the jury, have the discretion to decide whether or not you want to buy that witness's testimony and take it as truth and go ahead and believe it. And we've seen some outlandish we've seen some outlandish expert testimony, certainly in the Stout case. But okay, so I put the fainting goats at the end. So he talked about the difference between fainting and blacking out. And if you black out, it just happens like bang, and you come to and you have no idea what happened. Fainting, you still have no idea what happened, but you apparently hold on to consciousness for a little bit longer, and you get woozy, or and it kind of happens in slow motion. Well, okay, here's my rebuttal. Here's my rebuttal to the expert testimony that we just watched that said fainting and blacking out are two separate things. Those goats didn't faint based on his testimony. Based on his testimony, those are blackout goats. And these are the things that I think about when I have too much time alone. So thank you for being here. And Scout did put a link in. So that's the direct link to the spring store. You can also get to my merchandise by visiting the website at crimecurious.com/merch, or you can just follow that link that Scout put in chat. Thank you, Scout, for doing that. And then, and Jilly Bean says, Michael Hunt from the movie Porky's. And yeah, I think it's one and the same. Listen, it's Facebook, and Facebook is regularly pretty wild with the comments. It's not quite Reddit, but it's close enough. And, we've got someone who has been accused of a horrible set of crimes, who was on the run for more than 2 years. And she has a public Facebook page with her face on it where anybody from the public can leave comments. So it does get wild if you do check it out. Like I said, I just didn't feel comfortable sharing it here. And I don't want to fall off into that, but I definitely on my own time fall off into that. So anyway, and Jilly Bean says, I'll get better about posting links. Listen, it's not, it's no big deal. You guys are both great, and I appreciate you more than I can say. And you know it. I do want to say, and I think I have an image here somewhere. Yeah, so Kilo's been doing some modeling, and this is Kilo's latest modeling image. Let me take that back off. So that hoodie is going to look a lot different on Kilo than it does on me. It makes him look tall and slim, and I think it'll have the opposite effect on me. But, maybe it's different with dogs and humans. But we've got True Crime Melted My Brain coffee mugs and True Crime Melted My Brain hoodies. And purchasing those, I can tell you, in fact, I think, yeah, I have another image. So these are the prices for those products. And so the hoodie is $33.99. And on that, I receive $5 profit. The coffee mug is $15.99, and on that I receive $3 profit. And the Melted Brain sticker is $5.99. I receive $1.11 profit. So that's where I set those prices for good reason. I wanted to bring the prices down, but I do need to support some of the expenses on the channel. For example, I just spent $385 on phone calls from the El Paso County Jail that we're going to use for future content. And I don't mind spending it, but I would like to recoup as much as I can. I don't think that somebody getting paid for work is a bad thing. So I'm not asking for donations, although, it's still possible to do that for those of you who want to. I thought that having merch on the channel was a good way to kind of kick this thing off, and the merch is not distasteful in any way, nor does it even promote my channel. I don't think I'm alone in the whole True Crime Melted My Brain thing. So just about anybody who watches True Crime, I thought they might appreciate a coffee mug, at least, that says True Crime Melted My Brain, because I'm not alone in it. Anyway, that's really all I have for tonight. We're right at an hour and a half. And Jill said it's his blue steel look. Yep, Kilo's my co-host. He's my model. He's the mascot for the post-trial study group. He definitely doesn't get paid enough, and neither do you and Scout. I appreciate you all, and I will see you on the community wall all week long, and then next Saturday at 6 p.m. for the members only post-trial study group live stream, and then 8 p.m. for the public live stream, where we're going to go even deeper into Colorado's case against Kimberlee Singler. Thank you for being here, and good night.